Now Sports Central, we go over an NFL game preview and prediction on the Super Bowl 57 matchup between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. After outstanding seasons for both teams across the board, it all comes down to this. The Kansas City Chiefs once again return to the Super Bowl for the third time in 4 seasons. And when you got Pat Mahomes and as dominant and complete of a team as this is, it is brutal to bet against Kansas City as they take on the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles are a dominant and complete team as well, and this team is very much on the rise, looking for their second Lombardi in the past 6 seasons. A lot's at stake here in this matchup. We'll be going over a full game preview and prediction on this matchup here today, starting with your team trends. The Kansas City Chiefs beat the Cincinnati Bengals in the AFC Championship 23-20 was the final score there. What a game that was. Kansas City comes out on top. Obviously, it was a rematch of last year's AFC Championship game where Cincinnati pulled it out in overtime. Chiefs this time around shut down the Bengals. They get the win. They're 16-3 overall heading into this matchup and coming on a 7-game winning streak. So this team has been hot down the stretch. You got a team that is playing their best football this time of the season, and that's obviously the most important thing. As for Philadelphia, they took care of San Francisco 31-7. What a situation for the 49ers in that matchup. Brock Purdy playing as well as he was down the stretch as a third-string quarterback. I mean, for San Francisco to even be in the NFC Championship game was truly remarkable. And then they lose him. Then you go to Josh Johnson, who he gets then injured. And then you go back to Brock Purdy, and things are just a wreck at that point. And Philadelphia took advantage of it, got the win 31-7, 16-3 heading into the Super Bowl as well. And this team is on a 3-game winning streak. So they did take a couple of losses down the stretch. Philadelphia, for the most part, was the best team record-wise in the league all season. Of course, they did take 2 losses towards the end of the season to Dallas and then to New Orleans. And, of course, not having Jalen Hurts did have an impact on this team down the stretch, but looks as if Jalen Hurts is close to 100%. Both quarterbacks heading into this matchup, there is a 2-week gap between the conference championships and the Super Bowl, which is obviously important for both quarterbacks here. You got 2 quarterbacks that are kind of beaten up right now. Both are dealing with injuries, so we'll see if both quarterbacks are able to be 100% for this matchup. At least we'll definitely be hoping for that. Games will be on Sunday, February 12th in Glendale, Arizona. Kickoff at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. Spread's going with Philadelphia by 2, and that is the opening spread, so we will see how that adjusts over the course of the next couple of weeks. But the Eagles are favored here by 2. Over-under is 49.5, and the FPI is going with the Eagles as well, 53.1%. So, I mean, it's not terribly surprising seeing the Eagles favored here. You consider this team in their 2 postseason games to this point. They beat the Giants 38-7, beat the 49ers 31-7. 2 very dominant wins out of Philadelphia. And they keep this going. I mean, the Eagles are in a really good position as we head into the Super Bowl. The Chiefs did have 2 close games. They beat the Jaguars 27-20, and then they just knocked off the Bengals 23-20. So, I mean, if you consider that, the Eagles have been the more dominant team so far in the playoffs. But, I mean, if you look at both teams' ceilings, both teams can play right there with each other, that's for sure. Series history, Kansas City leads at 5-4. Chiefs have won the past 3 games, and they've won 3 out of the past 5. You look at the last matchup, it was back in 2021, the 2021 season. We saw the Chiefs win that game 42-30. That was in early October. The next time before that was in 2017. Turned out to be the season that the Eagles won the Super Bowl. So yeah, we really haven't seen these 2 teams play each other too often in recent history. We did not see these 2 teams play each other in the 2022 season. Stat comparison, Chiefs are first in points per game, the top team in the league in points per game. They're also the top team in the league in pass yards a game. And when you got Pat Mahomes, you'll see why. He's a quarterback who's thrown for over 5,000 yards this season, 41 touchdowns, over 12 interceptions. Nothing short of a top-tier quarterback. You got 2 top-tier quarterbacks here. Pat Mahomes, who's already claimed his position as a top-tier quarterback in the league. Jalen Hurts continues on the rise. Both quarterbacks are fairly young as well, so you got 2 star quarterbacks here facing off in this matchup. You look at the Chiefs, they're 15th in points allowed, so defensively they have been a bit vulnerable at times this season, but for the most part they have gotten it done, even though most of their games this season haven't been extremely dominant wins. I mean, they've had a couple of good wins by a couple of touchdowns or more, but for the most part, a lot of their games have been very close. They are 19th in rush yards a game. You got Isaiah Pacheco, who's really come around down the stretch as the lead back for Kansas City. You got Travis Kelce in the receiving core, an outstanding tight end to say the least. Obviously the best tight end in the league. He's received over 1,300 yards this season, 12 touchdowns. That duo in itself between Mahomes and Kelce has beaten up so many teams this season. And I mean, it's brutal to stop. And you got an outstanding tight end in Travis Kelce and Pat Mahomes who can play as outstanding as anybody. It is dangerous and it's brutal to stop. As for Philadelphia, they're third in points per game, eighth in points allowed. They're ninth in pass yards a game, fifth in rush yards, and they're the top pass defense in the league. That is going to be important here as they take on the Kansas City Chiefs, the top passing offense in the league here. Quite a matchup between an outstanding secondary and a Chiefs team that is brutal in the passing game. And for Philadelphia, they're 16th in rush yards or rush defense. So that is the main weak spot, you could say, for Philadelphia. You could see Kansas City try to get the rush game going in this matchup. It wouldn't be too surprising. Recent matchups, Kansas City, they beat the Bengals 23-20 in the AFC Championship, took care of Jacksonville 27-20. They beat the Raiders, Broncos, and Seahawks to finish out the regular season. As for Philadelphia, they beat the Niners 31-7, beat the Giants 38-7. So two dominant wins to start off the playoffs for the Eagles. And obviously both teams, once again, are 1 seeds, so we did not see both teams play in the wild card round. So both teams only play in the divisional and in the conference championships. The Eagles also beat the Giants to finish out the regular season, but they did lose to the Saints and the Cowboys, as I mentioned before. Obviously, the Jalen Hurts injury definitely had a significant part in that. Your key points, Chiefs 16-3 overall. Despite the injuries, this team has prevailed. There were a lot of analysts that were saying that, oh, the Bengals are probably going to win this game. They know how to beat the Chiefs. They got their number. Obviously, Pat Mahomes not at his 100%. He has been injured down the stretch, hasn't been totally at his best. And, I mean, you look at this team and how they prevailed against the Bengals. I mean, it just shows, despite all the injuries, this team is just that good. If you consider it, this is basically a matchup between the most dominant team in recent history and the most dominant team in specifically the 2022 season. Kansas City they've been the big power in the NFL the past few years. But the Eagles have been the main power this particular season. I mean, if you look at their season, despite those 2 losses towards the end of the season when they were dealing with Jalen Hurts injury, this has been the best team in the league this season. And you look at the postseason, that also goes with that. So, I mean, if you consider both teams here, it is an interesting storyline. Plus, the Andy Reid storyline is also significant here. You consider he coached for the Philadelphia Eagles way back when, got fired, and he's now with the Chiefs. And the Chiefs are a major power in the NFL right now. So quite a story for both these teams here heading into this matchup. And that said, let's get to the prediction here for Super Bowl 57, Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. In the end, this is brutal to predict, but I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs to win another Super Bowl, 31-27 being the final score. Pat Mahomes and this team is brutal to bet against. We saw them prevail against the Cincinnati Bengals, and I think they do it against Philadelphia in Super Bowl 57. Now, I mean, the Eagles are a complete team, both sides of the ball. No doubt they've got an excellent chance to win this game. We saw them be dominant in their first 2 games in the playoffs, but I just think Pat Mahomes and this team finds a way. They get the win 31-27. So I'll say 55% towards the Chiefs. Over-under is 49.5. I'll be taking the over. I think we see more of a higher scoring matchup here. Wouldn't be surprised if this one went over for sure. And I've got Kansas City covering the spread in the end. So I hope this is an outstanding matchup. I think it will be. And in the end, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I got Kansas City win this 31-27. I appreciate you guys watching as always. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. Catch you on the next one.